Hello, Year 11. This short video is going to explain your first English assessment task for reading to write. Over the next 7 terms, you'll get used to these videos where we walk through the gold sheet and what is expected of you in each task. So as we move through the slides, please read along with the gold sheet in front of you. Okay, so you can see on the first page that this is worth 30% of your final assessment. It is assessing your reading to write skills, and the outcomes are listed there below. It will take place on Friday the 4th at 2 o'clock. So that's not during your normal English class. We set aside that time on the weekly timetable for incursions. So that will be at 2 o'clock where the entire year group is sitting at the same time. Okay, so this unit, Reading to Write, is a skills-based unit. We are assessing and building your skills as a writer, whether that's in the imaginative, discursive, persuasive, and also in the reflective form. Throughout this unit, you're going to be doing a lot of writing in class and submitting little excerpts and pieces to your teacher for feedback, developing those specific skills as you, the author. Come week 10, hopefully by then, you would have really got to understand yourself as an author, and you'll be sitting an in-class test. Now that will take place either in the gym or upstairs on level 4 in the English classrooms that open up. As that day approaches, we will be putting up lists around the school so you know exactly where to go and in what room you'll be. The assessment will start at 2 o'clock. It's your job to be there in time so that at 2 o'clock we will begin. Now, ordinarily, it will finish at 3:05 unless you're one of those students with disability provisions where you might have slight adjustments. During that period, there's going to be 2 parts to the assessment. Part A is the writing component where you can write either imaginatively, discursively, or persuasively, and part B is the reflection. Let's talk about part A a little bit more. So that will be a 45-minute block of time. The first 5 minutes, however, are not writing time. They're referred to as planning time. That is opportunity for you to really unpack the question in front of you. You can highlight it, you can draw all over it, you can annotate, there'll be space for you to actually plan out your response. After those 5 minutes, you'll be given 40 minutes writing time. During that time, you are going to pick 2 questions to answer, 2 of 3. So the 3 questions will be imaginative, discursive, or persuasive. I want you to pick the 2 that best represent your skills as an author. So you might get there on the day and think this one really matches what I've prepared, or I can do something really clever with this question. So we want to give you some choice. The questions are going to be designed to link or have been inspired by your mentor texts. So for instance, if we're looking at the persuasive question, it's going to be inspired by Stan Grant's text that you would have studied in class. So you don't answer all 3, you just pick 2. And when you pick those 2, there's also going to be a little choice inside the questions because you're going to have stimulus. Stimulus in stage 6 is basically how you will be stimulated by the prompt in your own writing. And there'll be choice for that as well. Now I'm saying that in 40 minutes you do 2 responses, so they should be completed in about 20 minutes each. Now with that time frame in mind, we are not expecting you to write a full or complete speech like Stan Grant or a full or complete story. It's an excerpt that shows your best skills and your ability. Part B is also 20 minutes, but it's quite different to Part A because we're asking you to reflect on your skills as an author. Now, the question is right there in front of you. There's nothing to hide in Part B, so you know you'll need to write a short reflection explaining how you've employed language, so that's your techniques and your form and your style and things like that, to communicate your meaning. So it has to be clear what is your meaning, what is your authorial intent. Now part B, the reflection, doesn't need to deal with both sections above. You can pick one element, so you might go, I really did well with persuasive, that's the section I want to reflect on. And it should specifically address how you've used the stimulus and explain how you've answered that set question. Okay, so let's look at how it's going to be marked. There's 2 marking criteria, one for Part A and one for Part B. This will be the same for both of your questions. So when you pick 2 of the 3, this is what we're going to use to mark it. It'll be marked out of 20, and there are 3 skills that we are assessing. The first skill is basically how engaging is your writing? Is it thoughtful? Is it perceptive? Is it insightful? And how well you've really responded to the question and the stimulus. The second outcome is your control of the form. So do you understand the difference between imaginative, discursive, and persuasive? Have you written clearly in that identified form? And the third skill is pretty much the same in every English assignment, and that's basically your language, how well you have controlled your grammar, your syntax, your expression, your vocabulary, and all those sort of things. Now, the three skills don't change, just how you've reached those bands. The descriptors will reflect whether it's an A, B, C, D, or E, as you can see moving down the columns. Part B might feel a little bit more foreign because you might not have done as much reflection writing in your junior years. It is, in this case, marked only out of 10, so not weighted as heavy as the first component. Basically, we're assessing how well you can justify those language choices. So making the link between this technique for this purpose. The second thing we're looking for is how well you can explain how you've used the stimulus. So how you were inspired or stimulated by whichever stimulus you select on the day to form your final piece. And as I said before, pretty much always your last outcome is going to be your control of language. You can see again that those outcomes don't change, we're just how we describe those bands do. Okay, so a few other administrative things. We will be accepting writing throughout this unit, so you might already be submitting things to your classroom teacher for feedback, whether it's, you know, little passages or paragraphs and things like that. And that ongoing feedback is a way for you to build your skills. Now, if you want specific feedback for something you're composing in preparation for the assessment, you can submit a small extract by the 21st of March. Your individual classroom teachers will explain how to submit that, whether it's Google Classroom or email or things like that. But we encourage you to pick the section that you're finding most difficult. There's no point submitting something that you know is already well written, that you already think is very polished. Submit something where you want real feedback on how to improve. Drafts after this time won't be accepted because we have a 2-week window in order to do the feedback and for you to action the change necessary before the real day. And we are setting a word limit of 500 words for Part A and 300 words for Part B, remembering that it's just an extract so that we can assess your skills and how well you're writing in that form. Okay, a few other little things that because this is quite foreign and new, we're going to be putting together a practice or sample paper so that you can get comfortable with the layout, the style, even the way that, you know, it looks on the page. I want you to start thinking about your time management. You might not have done a lot of writing under time conditions in your junior years, so start rehearsing that now to build up your speed and your fluidity. Whilst you're still only getting to know us in these early few weeks, I really encourage you all to consult your teacher. Have conversations with them, pitch your ideas to them, talk to them about what you're thinking as your style of writing evolves. And write. You cannot be a good writer unless you practice writing. Write freely, bravely, in different styles. Experiment now so that you can build those skills. And test that writing out on real audiences. Actually give it to friends, or you might have someone in your family that you trust to give genuine, real feedback. Get feedback from a reader about how clear and engaging and interesting your writing is. You'll also notice that on the gold sheet, there's a lot of other information there about the assessment policy. Now, this is about you as an author, so we want to hear and read your words, not something plagiarized from the internet, obviously, not something generated by AI. Students may receive a marked deduction or even a 0 result if they use those mechanisms to produce their work. There's also information about being, if you're absent on the day, doing illness misadventure, contacting the school and so forth. I'm going to ask your individual classroom teachers to go through that with you. Ask them if you've got any questions about the assignment, but also as the head teacher of the faculty, I'm available to help or address any concerns you might have if you want to pop down to the staff room. Okay, I hope you are excited and I hope that you enjoy working towards this assessment task. Good luck and work hard. Thanks, Year 11.